why people first of all develop products, when should you develop a product, and the finances that are involved around it. You know that throughout the globe, we have more than 600 million entrepreneurs, which is almost half of the size of India.
Yes.
And it's massive. Okay. And in this, there are a lot of self-made entrepreneurs. And when we say self-made entrepreneurs, there is a huge chunk which is also gonna go bootstrap. First of all, why develop your own product? Can you put some light on this?
Absolutely. So my feeling on this is that any product is built with the goal of solving a particular problem, right? So there are entrepreneurs who see there is something wrong in the market, or maybe there's a gap in the market, not necessarily always wrong, but there's a gap in the market, or there is something that does not exist at all, and they just came up with the idea, which we can say it's very hard in today's day and age because almost everything's out there, but still coming up with a very innovative idea that is not being done currently. So all these different things are at the end of the day problems that need solving, and product always ends up being the way to go to solve that problem, right? Because you're bringing in something into the market that is a product that solves a particular problem for somebody. So that is what I feel, why the need of product comes in, or why a product.
What are your views on a product which solves a niche problem but a really burning problem versus a product which solves a mass problem but like a marginal problem?
My feeling is more on solving a niche problem with a very, very high value, and this I'm saying from a product success slash scalability slash profitability point of view. That's just my thought. It's not that in the marginal problem for the masses you cannot make money or you cannot be profitable, but those are two completely different sort of ways to go for any entrepreneur. And in my thought, or it's probably just my personal feeling, that solving a niche problem with a very high value against it is the way to go, or that creates a bigger impact, gives you a bigger sense of we can say success, or a validation that you solved something big, you did something big. So that's what I think.
Yeah. So today's topic, as we discussed, is more about finances. Let's discuss about, while developing your own product, where all are you going to be focused with respect to finances. So what I can think of is, the first, of course, being the development of the product cost, which is going to be massive while the product is being developed and reaching to a stage. Eventually, once you have reached to a stage, there are going to be marketing costs. There are going to be probably branding costs, because you want to reach out to the market with the right message. There are going to be a bit of R&D costs. There are going to be some operational as well as logistical costs involved. And these are the bifurcations that I feel the costs are. Let's discuss a bit on the most ignorant cost, which is the R&D cost. What I have done in the past, which was not recommended, is I have done a lot of R&D while building a product, or while doing a service, while exploring the markets. And when I realized that I am putting in a lot of money into R&D versus putting in a lot of money into my core business, my mentor told me the 90-10 principle. So he said that 90% of your focus should be on your core business, because that is going to be a bread and butter, and then you scale that up, versus 10% is going to be your focus onto building the R&D and related activities. The reason you invest a bit on R&D activities is because you want to explore in the market what are the new things by which you can deliver the value. I'm sure a lot of companies do it, but if you actually think about a medium scale entrepreneur or a small scale entrepreneur, or a person who is running a big company but is running in a very traditional way, they don't invest that much in R&D costs. I feel that we should allocate a bit of budget for R&D costs also, because that R&D, the output of that R&D is going to be used into your core product. So what are other ways by which a person can manage their other costs, which is their core cost, which is 90% of the cost that we're talking about, which is execution, development in this case, marketing and other things. So how do people budget around this?
So that's a very good question to start with, and also can be a very difficult question to answer, because a lot of different people will have different thoughts on this, and there are different ways of doing it as well. But as you very correctly said, that the 90-10 principle is very right. There should always be 10% of your budgets or 10% of your efforts going towards R&D, and not more, for obvious reasons, because R&D is very highly dependent on a breakthrough, which might or might not happen. So the uncertainty around that is very high. Hence, 10% would be the right amount of effort or money to put against that. When we talk about the remaining 90%, I think budgeting and having a very clear handle on your forecast is a very important thing. And when I say forecast, it means the money you are spending on actually doing the activities, the money you are making out of it, which is your margins or whatever, and say for example the sales you have lined up. So because there are a lot of different things that will come into play. If we take any example of a product that is oriented towards sales, you make something and you sell it, and the sales of it is going to make you money. So you have a very good product, you have a good profit margin on it, but there are no sales, right? So all these things come into the picture when you're forecasting everything. Let it be, you need to have. So as I was saying, that forecasting your own resources and your sales and everything is very important. So if we talk about forecasting your own resources, for example, and when you say your own resources is the people people that are spending time for you to build your product or build your software or whatever it is. So if you have a certain amount of people, say you have, for example, 10 people in your organization, and all 10 of them are going to work, say, 7 hours a day, and they work for 5 days a week, and that will give you a certain value. Say that is the amount of man hours you actually have that you can spend. And now you need to work out how many man hours do you need to actually deliver the product, and what is the time you have available, and what is the money you'll be putting into it. So because the amount of time that your employees or your team members spend on building that is going to be your money getting spent to pay their wages and everything. And if we take an example, for example, you have 1000 hours that are available in a week, and you have work that needs to be done which is worth 1000 hours, and you have money that can pay for those 1000 hours. So this is a perfect scenario that you have the people, you have the money, and you have the work, and those three things can happen and your product gets built. But the problem arises when you have the people, you have the work, but you don't have the funds to keep it rolling. Or in some cases you have the funds, you have the people, but you don't have the work. Like there's nothing left to be done. And in all these cases, you are set for failure, because you'll either run out of work and you won't be producing anything, or in some cases you have the work but you don't have the funds to keep it going. So in all these cases, as I said, you're set towards failure, and it is very important to have these three things work in harmony for you. So budgeting and forecasting, that is very, very important.
Do you know that I read a statistics which said that out of the total failures that are happening in an entrepreneurship journey, 30% are only because of a bad financial budgeting and all that.
Yeah.
And I really like your approach of, making a, man hour kitty, and you know that you have this much amount of money. Say, for example, you have like 20 lakh rupees, and that is what your budget is. And then in that budget, you have taken into account everybody's wages and then back calculated how many hours do you have in hand. So your 20 lakh rupees corresponds to say 1000 hours. And now that many hours are going to correspond to how much progress can you make in your product development, marketing and success.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to very easily forecast that, okay, this product success journey is going to take 700 hours. Then I have 300 hours worth of money left in my bank account.
Absolutely.
That's cool. But if my product success is going to take 2000 hours and I have only 1000 hours worth of money in my pocket, then I need to raise funds.
Yes.
Or I need to take a loan, or I need to go for a government grant, or I need to do something around it, or I need to, do whatever that it takes to get the money to fuel my rest of the 1000 hours.
Yeah.
So thinking of money as your time as well as time as your money is the approach that you have that you just gave right now is absolutely mind blowing for me. And there are a lot of people who don't know this calculation. How do you convert money into time and time into money? Yeah. So this is I think great approach that is going to benefit a lot of people, I feel, in their entrepreneurship journey to forecast. And talking about forecast, do you know Tesla is great at forecasting, and I really like the way they forecasted things. I think 2016, Elon said that they are going to make, I think 500,000 cars in 2018. So 2 years ke baad mein, they forecasted that they are going to make 500,000 cars, which they achieved.
Yes.
And 2017 mein they forecasted, that they are going to make 1 million cars in 2020 year, okay, which they did. And the forecasting that they did was purely based on the data that they were getting. It was not an intuition. It was not a very high-willed and motivated effort and calculation that they did. It was purely based on the numbers that they were having and the way they managed the whole project. And I really like the way they forecasted. People actually made fun of them. The whole story. Twitter and everybody was blowing off. Oh, he's just being too optimistic about it. But they did it. And I really like the way the forecasting that they did.